Excuse me, this is a non-smoking section. 260 Remington. And this was one of my first rifle assemblies. And it has a 26-inch Schillen 1 1/8 twist, whip machine muzzle brake, and your typical 8 to 32 by 56 Citron. This is a Bell & Carlson Medalist stock. Cut down the in-between shots a little bit, but I wanted to share with you all the smoke that we normally don't see. And this whip machine muzzle brake really puts out the heat, because we're down into the 40s now. And between that and the way the sun was coming in on the chute here, it was very interesting, so I thought that I would share it with you. This is a 15-shot string, and the components are 107 grain Sierra Match King, 260 Remington, and we're using 41.7 grains of Hodgdon 4350, Lapua brass, and Remington 9.5 Magnum primers. At the end of this video, I'm going to be doing a little discussion about how I prep and do my reloading processes. And a lot of times it's the dies that I have that kind of dictate how the process takes place. Plus, if I'm shooting steel, obviously I'm not going to take as much care as I do with shooting paper. I have to say that this gun shoots decent, but it has a little bit more recoil, even with the muzzle brake, than my 222 or my 223. So in a lot of ways, this is a more of a long range setup here. And I've shot this out to 1100 yards, and it'll shoot minute of angle right out to 1100 yards. And the interesting thing here is we're using some pretty light bullets, right? 107 grain bullets, but I ended up getting a deal on these at a flea market, and a gentleman had an unopened box of 500 Sierra Match Kings. I asked him what he would have for it, and he told me $40, so it didn't really take long for me to put those in the car.
Last one.
Quick steel wool to the neck, and I just remove the primer. I make sure that the cases are all trimmed to 2.027. Then I anneal the cases with my homemade Lyman case prep station that's turned into an annealer. You'll notice that I get quite a uniform burn on those. We're using a Redding body die first to size down the sides and bump the shoulder around 1,000. You know, when we talk in these measurements of thousandth and 2,000th, they're very, very small measurements, but 3.619 is the after fired shoulder measurement. And once we run that through the bump die, we should be at 3.618. So that's about 1,000th of a bump. And you'll notice I'm using the RCBS case lube pad. I like Imperial dye wax, but it takes too long, and if the pad using the RCBS case lube is not over lubricated, it'll save you a ton of time, and the end result is the same. Cleanup is the same, because you still have to wipe off either before you put it in the chamber. Okay, so how I do my neck tension: measure a loaded round, and that's at 0.294. It's the outside neck diameter, and I have a 292 bushing, which is 2,000th less, and that gives me 2,000th neck tension, kind of, sort of. Make sure you have that bushing in there free floated in the bushing die. And I don't like to have the bushing die or any die touch the case holder. This is my tried and true Lyman case prep station that's now been converted back to a case prep station after being an annealer. And we try to do each process the same way, right down to deburring the flash hole. And you never know what you're going to find in the inside there. I rarely tumble my brass. I steel wool the necks and wipe off the entire case with rubbing alcohol. Short period of time. The one thing that you want to make sure of is as you inspect the case to make sure that you don't have any rubbing alcohol that drip down inside of the case. And because it evaporates so quickly, they're usually good to go in about 10 minutes. We want mechanical tension on those, the neck to the bullet. So we're going to wipe out all the lubrication and make sure you get the head of the case where the head stamp is. Sometimes you can pick up a little bit of contamination there as well. In this primer shortage, I found that the Remington 9.5 primers works very well. These are a Magnum primer and they have a nice cup. For the 107s, we did a powder workup from 41 grains, which is on the top left, to 42 bottom right. These are all 5-shot groups. I decided on 41.7 and then to do a seating depth check because there are 4 bullet holes there and then 1 flyer. You'll notice I'm using a RCBS 505 and just trickle charging up. That's a Lee Perfect powder measure on the left there. And for shooting steel, that's all I ever use. Powder charge is 41.7 grains of Hodgdon 4350. And we seat the bullets with the Redding competition seater